Hello, welcome to Rose Floral School, the show. I am Catherine, and this is the show where we talk about systems and processes to make your wedding floral design business less stressful and more enjoyable. Today we are talking about how to create certain styles, certain emotions in your designs. So this is going to be an interesting topic because to some degree, I feel like a little bit of this is sort of subjective. What one person sees as really slick and modern, another person might see as cold and harsh. Like it's all a little bit subjective. I guess certain styles I think have traits that are inherent to them. But they can create different emotions in different people too. So let's talk about it. In my opinion, and honestly too, this is a little bit off the cuff, but this is kind of it's the point. The point is it can be off the cuff, first of all. With your style, your emotion, a lot of it comes from your elements or your principles of design. To be totally frank, I almost Googled this and then I thought, what is the point? I've gotten this far without knowing exactly which ones are the elements and which are the principles. I'm pretty sure it is the elements of design, which are form, shape, line, texture, color. I do know that. We learned an acronym when I was in flower school. And so that's how I can even remember them. I mean, I have to write them down or mentally think it through. But the point is, if those are the elements or those are the principles, I don't really care. But I will say some of those elements or principles are what kind of goes into creating your emotion and your style of your designs. Specifically, in my opinion, the texture, the color, and maybe the shape, the line a little bit, but I think the texture and color are probably the most important parts of creating a specific style or a specific emotion. So those are probably the top two we will talk about today. And so if you're trying to create a specific, let's start with emotion, a specific emotion in your arrangements for your wedding that you're designing. I think this one's probably the harder one, so I'm glad we're starting with it. Get it over with. I think again, a lot of people have different thoughts on this, but in general, emotions come from color. They can come from texture too, but I think your primary driver of emotion is going to be your colors. Are the flowers all white? They're going to feel more serious, more refined, more of that understated elegance. Are your flowers all yellow? They're going to feel energetic, excited, emotional, in this buzzing, happy, excited way. Are they all red? They're all going to feel really romantic, a little seductive, a little bit rich, and maybe a little moody. And so on. I think you can all imagine, the different combinations. I mean, all purple, I think it's a little funny. It's not funny, funky, a little fresh, a little sweet and tender and bouncy and bubbly. But if they're all really, really dark purple, maybe it's a little bit more regal, a little bit more almost urban and refined and a little edgy. I think if it's that really rich, I don't know, that just rich, deep purple. So playing with your colors will tap into the emotions for sure. I think too, the more that your color palettes are colors next to each other on the color wheel, so if it's a light orange, a pale butter color, and a little bit of blush, so basically red, orange, yellow, but but not. So blush, peach, and butter, those are going to feel a little bit more soft. There's not so much contrast. There's not as much pop to them. They're next to each other on the color wheel, so they'll feel a little bit more relaxed, subdued. Whereas if you're choosing colors from all across the color wheel, you've got bright orange, bright blue. Even if it's a subtle orange and a subtle blue, they'll have that more contrast. They'll be a little bit more poppy, a little bit more energetic, a little bit more upbeat. So I think playing around with colors that are, like I said, in that same little family. What do they call it? Analogous? I don't even know. Again, we don't have to get technical here, but colors near each other, colors in the same family, all warm colors or all cool colors will feel a little bit more relaxed. Whereas if you mix them, I think that's where it starts to spark up a little bit more energy, a little bit more playfulness. Of course, the saturation of the color makes a huge difference as well. If you're using all pastel, you could use every pastel color on the rainbow. If they're really, really, really muted, really subtle, it'll still feel soft and neutral, and it could still feel really mellow, even though you're using every single color. Whereas if you use every single color in a really saturated, punchy, deep tone, you'll get a wedding that feels that way. It will feel bold. It will feel exciting. It will feel in your face a little bit in a good way. But you can see that the saturation plays a huge role. So for example, if I have a bride who wants it to feel soft and romantic and sweet, but a little bit fun and a little flirty, we'll do a soft palette, but maybe add in a little punch of coral, a tiny bit of a like deeper orange versus just like creamsicle orange. So adding those little bits in there can bring just a little bit of that like energetic, fun, playful vibe. On the flip side, if you have a bride that wants it to feel really fun, but still like a little refined, maybe we kind of do the opposite. We have some of those bright colors, but give it a little bit of a grounding base with some pale blush, some champagne tones, just to kind of like ground it a little bit, keep it a little bit soft. So playing around with the colors themselves, the mix of colors, and the saturation, I think is probably the strongest part, in my opinion, of creating certain emotions. I do think that texture comes into that as well, but I think the texture, in my opinion, plays up more the certain style. So you could have a wedding that we'll go with just all white and greenery. How about? So you can have one wedding that's just white and green, and maybe it's a really soft, fluffy, ruffly, a little bit of a salt and pepper texture to it. So think tons of baby's breath, little spray roses, maybe, some standard roses too, some white freesia, a little bit of white stock, a little, even like some white larkspur. So they're just like so lacy and delicate. And that is just such a soft, small texture, fine textured sort of bouquet that will feel really soft, really romantic, maybe a little bit rustic even, or a little country, a little wildflower. That will be your style of that bouquet, because the texture just lends itself to that type of style. It looks like it was gathered in a field, and so it feels just very, I don't know what the word would be, kind of cottagey, I guess you could say. Whereas a bouquet, same exact color scheme, all white, maybe a little green, just white calla lilies alone in a bouquet, that does not feel cottagey at all. That feels slick, that feels modern, sophisticated. Some people are calling it timeless. I push back on that a little bit. I would say classical, maybe. Not necessarily timeless in my opinion, but just straight calla lilies in a bouquet will not feel cottagey. It won't feel wildflower at all. And that's because of the texture. A, you've got the repetition of just all calla lilies, but B, the callas alone are they're slick. They're sculptural. They're not a salt and peppery texture. They've got such an interesting form and shape to them already. Even if it's just a bouquet, even if it's a mixed bouquet, if it's calla lilies, orchids, like a phalaenopsis orchid, maybe some dendros, some anthurium in there perhaps. All of those flowers are so sculptural and clean and slick, and there's no little salt and pepper softness to them at all. They are just slick. Your bouquet will feel that way too. Now, of course, you might even fall somewhere in the middle, in between, but you can see how different textures are what is totally driving the style of that arrangement. Now, of course, things like your line, the scale, the shape, plays into it too. A bouquet that's a perfect round is going to feel very traditional. In general, even if it's all calla lilies in a round bouquet will feel traditional, whereas calla lilies in that longer sheath, we're seeing that a lot right now, that will feel a little bit more slick, a little bit more modern. I think that's just a little trendy right now. But that is part of what makes it feel modern, because it's trendy, so it's of today. But yeah, calla lilies in a perfect round ball will feel very not timeless, very traditional. Excuse me. And so you can see that there, the shape of the bouquet is totally skewing what the style is as well. Lines, how the line of a bouquet flows will affect it too. Same as shape. I feel like those are very like similar. So like I said, I feel like, in my opinion, texture and color are the most important. Shape, I think, does play into there a bit as well. But so that's what I think kind of factors into creating an emotion or creating a style in your flowers. Now, how to create the one that you want, I think this is something that you just kind of like learn, you get a sense for and a taste for over time. You probably already have a lot of it just from living your life to this point. You can see something and say, oh yeah, that looks country rustic. Oh, that looks, like ballroom, classy, sophisticated, old money, new money, whatever you want to call it. Boho. There's all of these like buzzwords too that get thrown around. So you'll kind of get a sense for that. But if you want to practice this or hone in on it or work on it a little bit, what I would suggest is go right onto Pinterest and search whatever you want to search. You can just search bridal bouquet. And scroll down a bit, find some that you like, or find one that is in you, that your mind just says like, oh yes, that is moody, enchanted forest, romantic, dark academia, whimsical vibes. Yes, that's what I'm trying to work on or practice or create or learn about, whatever it is that you're trying to focus on. Find what looks to you like, that's it. Click on that. If you find one that feels a little bit like it, sometimes you got to go a few layers into Pinterest. So click on it and then scroll, and then find one that's, even if you're starting to like kind of triangulate. So click on one that's a little bit of the vibe and then scroll on what it suggests after that. You know what I mean? You have to sometimes get through these layers of Pinterest until you like break through to the other Pinterest. Anyway, so if you're not seeing what you love immediately, find one, get into that one, scroll below that, find one that's a little closer. Eventually you'll get into whatever style it is that you're trying to, like I said, work on, hone in on, learn more about. Once you find a photo that you're like, yes, this is the style that I am trying to create or make more of, or that my bride wants and I feel uncertain about, so I want to figure this out. Whatever it is, find your inspiration, like this is a photo, and sort of dissect it that way. If you want, Google the elements and principles and write them all down and sort of define it. Like, okay, this is we'll go with that example I gave. This one looks like a dark academia, like haunted mansion vibe wedding. Yes, what defines this kind of style? And write it down. So, okay, the shape, the form, the form, shape, whatever, it is a little asymmetrical. It's got this cool thing coming down. There's a lot of like drooping and layers to the shape. It's not just round. It's not just a perfect oval. It's asymmetrical. It's okay. Got it. The texture is loaded. It's got all kinds of texture. There's pointy stuff. There's round stuff. There's smooth things, fluffy things. It's got every single texture known to man. Okay. Got it. Just every texture, put it in there. The colors, okay, it's really dark. It's everything dark. There's some black, there's some burgundy, there's not much white. Whatever it is, go through that picture that looks like the exact style you want to create. Go through the elements and principles and write it down. And I think if you do that a few times, you will start to learn what defines a specific style. And again, I argue that some of this could be subjective, but this is an art. So if you can define it even on your own terms, then you can create it. So that's what I would do if you want to get some practice. Go through, find that perfect picture, find a couple samples, and figure out, yeah, what are the elements and principles that go into this type of design, and then put those into your designs that you want to make in that style. So that would be my, I guess, advice on like how you can create an emotion or a style, what goes into the emotions and styles, and then if you want to practice to be able to do certain emotions, certain styles yourself, That would be my like hands-on practice homework, if you will. That would be my like hands-on practice homework, if you will. But I think a good amount of it is sort of inherent. You know, oh, I know that I want this to be really slick and sophisticated, so I'm going to use flowers that have a slick, clean texture and not a lot of extra fluff, not a lot of that, you know, softness. It's all going to be clean, sculptural, rigid, whatever. You know, I think we do all have some sense of it. But there are certain ones that, of course, any of us could polish up more on, and so that would be my advice as for how to practice that. So that wraps up today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please go ahead and follow us on wherever you are listening: Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Music, and hang out, and we will be back next week. Thanks so much. Have a good day.